So I'm back in the bathroom, ready for another hair change because this unit, the Bobby Boss lace unit that I was wearing, which you'll remember from my last hair video, I was like rocking this and it has the nice like little J part and I was blending that in and so forth. So this unit has just been really kind of like itchy. And since Halloween is over, so I no longer need it for my Halloween costume because that was kind of the whole point of this. It was only like $19 or something on sale. It was like a super cheap unit, but because it is just like a very loose wave, it doesn't tangle. So that's the one nice thing about it. However, it was kind of just like itchy, and I have a very sensitive scalp, very sensitive skin. So okay, Langston got a knot, and he ties a knot in his tape measure, and then he needs me to fix it. Because, well, I don't know, it's just an attention thing because I'm filming. So anyway, what I was going to say is I am going to transition back into my nice curly hair that a lot of you are used to seeing me in. So this is how my hair looks after I just kind of take it out of those braids that I do for wearing a wig or unit or crown or whatever you want to call it. I think crown and unit are kind of, you know, just more dignified terms than wig. But anyway, so this is my natural hair, and you can see the roots are darker than the ends. I did dye some of the roots just to blend with that unit, which you can see a little bit of dye still maybe on my scalp in places. I did get most of it off with, I just used like a Q-tip and alcohol and then rub that off. But anyway, so what I did is before I did my braids last time, I actually had taken my weave out. And then I kind of panicked because I didn't have time to do my braids. And so what I did is instead of sewing the weave back in, I took the Wefted hair, and this is Boho Exotic Studios. It's human hair. It is a really nice curl pattern. This one's kind of bent because it's been in a package, but it's just wefted hair. As you can see, it has a really nice, super durable weft, so it lasts, you know, a long time. I've had this, I think, for 3 years. It is a 6mm curl. I also have an 8mm curl. So what I did is I actually sewed it onto a cap. So you can see that this has some lace at the top. Obviously I didn't have a lace frontal, so I just sewed the tracks onto that and kind of made it into a unit that will kind of be angled back. And then I'll kind of show you, like, so what you do to sew is just kind of put this on. I actually use a bowl because I don't have a mannequin head, and then you just kind of like lay the track over top, space it out, and then sew that on. Now I love this hair. It is definitely like my signature hair. It's awesome. I love it. It is super cute. Obviously you can see my hair up underneath because I took it out of the braids, but it just makes me feel like me. It makes me feel confident. It's kind of sassy. It's curly. It is, it just goes with the shape of my face, my features, and everything. However, I really am loving the color of this one. So I am going to be dyeing this unit into this color. And the reason why I sewed it into a unit, or why I'm dyeing it in the unit instead of taking it out, number one, I'm going to continue to wear a unit over top of my hair just braided back to let it rest completely for, you know, another 2 weeks or so. Then I'll just take the tracks out, just undo the sewing. It's super easy, and sew them onto my hair for a week. So Langston with his needs. Mommy's turning it on, just a minute. Woo! So, all that to say, I'm gonna transition my hair as well as this into this color with only with only one product. This is an argan oil hair color, and I like it because it's kind of protective. It has like 100% coverage. It's actually permanent hair color, so I'm going to be using that to dye. It's actually a, what is it, light red. It's a 4R, but it's kind of like a light to medium red. And I think that it's gonna work really well with the blonde highlights. Now this hair actually came as a regular dark color, like a 1B. And I lifted it, but I sewed it in first because I feel like it looks better. Whenever you dye hair, it just looks more natural if you dye it in the pattern that it's gonna be worn, because otherwise it's not gonna look like the highlights are in the right place, or you're just gonna have like highlights all over or whatever. So anyway, what I'm gonna do is mix this argan oil dye with a 40 color developer. I'm gonna put that on my hair, and then I am going to also put that on the wefted hair, and then I'm going to see how it looks, see how it came out. Now it might take to my hair a little bit differently than it takes to the wefted hair, so we'll kind of see how that works. So yeah, here we go. So don't forget your rubber gloves because you've got to protect those hands. This is the color that I've squeezed out about half of the tube. And then I'm going to use this Sensitive Scalp 40 strength developer. So you're going to want to pour in about as much volume of the developer as the color, and then mix it around. I'm just using kind of a small brush to mix. You want to make sure it's well mixed, and it'll start to turn a little bit of a lavender color. Since I actually did dye my perimeter dark, I have put my natural hair back in a ponytail, and I'm just grabbing some of that dye and massaging it into the ends. And then what I do, I just do this really quickly because you want to get it spread nice and even. Once the ends are coated, since I want the ends to have more red than the rest, I put it in there first. Then you just kind of take out that ponytail holder and work your way down to the roots and grab extra dye as needed. And you can see that it's already, like within seconds, not even minutes, it's already going to turn. It's only been about 50 seconds or so that I've had this in. And it's gonna start to turn. You just wanna make sure that it's massaged all the way in. You can part your hair in half and kind of pull some of it forward. Another method is to like brush it through to make sure that it's evenly coated. And again, that's what I like about this argan oil dye, is that it's not as harsh. With some dyes, they would be so harsh that you would not be able to get a brush through the dye. But anyway, it also depends a bit on hair texture and thickness as well. Now, because my hair is very fine and very thin, just has a grade of hair, it's always been that way, I don't need like a ton of dye, so I'm probably pretty good to go. I don't need to use as much dye for my natural hair as I'm actually going to need to use for the wefted hair. And honestly, it's not like I'm wearing my natural hair out, except for the fact that I do blend it a little bit in the front with the unit, and so I want it to be the same color. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clip that up so that it's, you know, out of the way. And then I'm going to use the remainder of this on my unit. So, and I'm just applying it dry. I'm not wetting the unit first because I really do want it to soak in. Red is one of the first colors to actually fade in hair dye. So I expect that, you know, every 4 weeks or so, if I really want to keep the red look, I'll probably have to do another application on my own hair if I really want it to keep on there. I'm not sure about this hair, how long it will last. It seems like the dye that I used last time, you know, really went far, so it lasted a long time. And I actually just was using mostly bleach because I was getting that blonde, but I also was using like a pale ash blonde dye and a violet toner to get that nice blonde color. So I'm gonna mix up a little more dye just really quickly and finish coating this unit, and I'll be right back. You're all done massaging that into your own hair and into the tracks. You can go ahead and take your gloves off. I'm going to show you what this looks like on the wefted hair, as the dye is just in there. So you want to kind of watch it. What I do is I actually turn it inside out like this, just with the cap on the outside, and put it in the sink or on top of the sink. I'm going to rinse out my little bin that I put the dye in and wash my hands. So you kind of want to eyeball it. You really should do that strand test that they recommend over the counter with these over-the-counter type of dyes. This is not a box dye like you get at the grocery store, but it is also one that anyone can get. You don't have to have a professional license. This is just from Sally Beauty, or you can get the argan oil dyes probably on Amazon or online somewhere as well. So you just need the dye and then a developer. If you have really dry hair, or you know, you don't want to use as strong of a developer as the 40, you can always go with a little bit lower strength developer, like a 30 or 20 or whatever. It'll sometimes just take longer to develop. I'm very impatient. I like to do things quickly because I like to get a lot of different things done in a day, and sometimes a lot of different things are happening at once. So yeah, just rinse out your little container. I just store my dye container in my bathroom along with the little brush that came from, who knows, like some packet of root touch-up or something a long time ago. So I'm just going to clean my sink out. Again, if you get any dye around your perimeter, you can clean it off with makeup remover. You can clean it off with sometimes toothpaste. You can clean it off with baking soda and dish soap mixed together. You can clean it off with just rubbing alcohol, which is what I usually try to use. So once you kind of are done cleaning up, go ahead and look at your hair. It's going to be a little bit scary at first because that red goes from like lavender-ish to eventually the red. So it's not going to look like the exact color you want initially. So just be patient, wrap it back up, put your clip back on, wash your hands, set a timer for another 10 minutes or so, and I will be back to look at it. Now it's time to rinse, rinse, rinse. I am actually going to rinse out the dye out of the wefted hair first, just because natural hair typically takes a little bit longer to process, and also because I have dyed this unit so many times I don't want to, you know, like over process it. So what I'm doing is just rinsing out with water, rinsing out the dye, and then I'm going to use some conditioner. So you can see that really beautiful color. So I'm going to rinse out, this is all the dye with the water that I can get out, and then I'm going to be using the As I Am Coconut Co-Wash Cleansing Cream Conditioner. See how beautifully that Boho Exotic Studios hair washes up. So pretty, and it's been washed and rewashed for literally 3 years. So I'm back, and this is my hair and the wefted hair. And this hair works really great with just a paddle brush after you put that As I Am Co-Wash conditioner in there. It just really springs back beautifully. It kind of defines the curl pattern to brush it with a paddle brush. And of course the nice thing is that this isn't growing out of anybody's head, so you're not gonna have any kind of tension with the brushing process. So yeah, it turned out to be a really pretty color. Super excited to install it in the morning. I'm not going to actually put this on tonight. To install it, basically I'm just gonna braid my hair in two braids on the sides, on the perimeter, 2 perimeter braids, and then use the combs on the unit. There are 3 combs, 2 by the ears and 1 on top. And then I usually like to just, since there's no comb on the back, I could add a comb on the back, but I usually like to just use a bobby pin or something back there if I feel like it needs to be extra secured. So what I'm going to do to style this is to kind of find a natural little part area, because I like it to kind of go over to that side. So I'm going to kind of brush it over a little bit from that side, and then put a little bit of gel and clip it and put it on my homemade wig form, because I do not actually have a mannequin head. I'll show you what I use to make your own DIY wig form, so that you can style your units before you go to bed, or just pop them off and pop them onto the wig form, so that you don't have to like throw them in a drawer or put them in a bag or do something that's going to bend the hair, especially with beautiful curly hair like this. You don't want it to get smashed overnight. And sometimes I will add a little bit of Pro Gel, just to the top area before I style it. And just to the ends, just a little bit to the ends. So I'm going to go get my little wig form and pop it on there. So this is the color contrast on the left before the dye and on the right after the dye. So these are the 3 things that I use to make my homemade wig form. I start with the gel, then put the jar on top of that, and then put the vase upside down on top of that, and then pop the wig on. This is high enough to where the curls are not going to squish against the base of my dresser or the top of my dresser, so they're not going to be smashed. So it's basically you want to have a wig form that is tall enough to keep your hair up off of the surface that it's sitting or standing on. And I have the clips in there in the top just to help the style kind of hold while the unit is drying. So this is a contrast of, on the left, the wig that I had in before that I really liked the color of, and on the right, how the color of this unit turned out. So good morning. I actually have slept with my hair just out, and the wig unit that I made is all ready. nice and dry overnight. So what I'm going to do is just show you how I install it. So I'm going to start with just braiding my hair into 2 braids. And actually I'm just going to kind of like finger part all the way back like that. And then just go ahead and loosely braid. Again, I'm letting my hair rest, so these are just loose braids. You don't want too much tension on your scalp when you're letting your hair rest. So these are just basically functional braids, meaning they're not, you know, they're not for looks, they're just for securing the unit. And you're just going to do 2 braids. And what I do is I just like braid all the way to the end and then kind of tip that up and bobby pin it up, because bobby pins are a lot more flat than clips to have under a unit. And then take the other side and the same thing. This is just an over braid as opposed to an under braid, because over braids are flatter, under braids tend to stand up off the head. And by the way, I have a NARS, I used a NARS lip color. It's called American Woman. It's not really a lipstick, it's like a liquid lip thing that somebody sent to me, so I'm not sure if it, like, it's not really glossy, so it's like a liquid lip color, I guess. I don't know the correct term for it, but I kind of like the color with this, with the hair color. I also, the only other thing I did different with my makeup today is I used a Turkish Coffee e.l.f. Eyeshadow as opposed to the regular kind of like nude palette that I tend to use my eyeshadows from. So yeah, just go ahead and braid to the end, and again, this doesn't have to be perfect or cute or whatever. Just tuck that up and secure it. And then you're gonna go ahead and take your unit. You might have a couple little like flyaways if your hair is like mine, as far as just being impossible to stay in position without a ton of product. Anyway, yeah, those ends will just lay flat. So we're gonna take the unit, and again, this one has 3 combs, 2 on the temple or 2 on the ears and 1 in the middle. So I'm just gonna go ahead and pull it on and take that middle comb, and I usually kind of go back and forth to make sure it gets a really good grip. Same with the side combs. Just make sure that they grip onto that braid so that nothing's going to, you know, take that wig off easily at all. So you have to pull your hair out to get that off. Now, what I usually do when I'm letting my hair rest, instead of doing, this is this is a tweezers for eyebrows. But anyway, what I usually do is I use the end of the tweezers just to pull out a little bit of hair to blend over, because this has a curl pattern. Now you can't do this with like a straight unit, but because this has a curl pattern, you can make those little loops of hair I like to blend with a toothbrush, just look like it's growing out of your head. So you can't see any tracks, nothing. Now, if you feel like that's not enough, that you need something more to feel secure about your blending, you can always access that nude palette for like a brown or something and just put like right by where the tracks are. You can kind of just blend so that, again, nobody's going to see tracks, because this is not a lace unit. So those tracks are, it's just the same, it's basically the same exact process as when you have a weave with like just a tiny bit of leave out. So again, the less leave out you have, the less you really have to blend. Once I sew the tracks into my head for a weave, it's gonna look the same. It's gonna look just like this, except I will have a little bit more leave out, just like a piece of leave out that I will curl at night. And I did a video about that, like how to curl, if you have straight hair, whether it's relaxed or naturally straight, how to basically match the curl pattern of a 6mm or 8mm curl pattern, or whatever curl pattern you have, you know, to use either rag curls or other things to just kind of like get that same curl pattern. And then you're going to want to use a little bit of probably some spritz or whatever, just to hold those few little hairs in place. But again, it's a very natural looking installation. So I get compliments all the time when people see me in person whenever I wear this curl pattern, because people are like, oh my gosh, you have such pretty curls. Or they'll say like, Langston has your curls. And I'm like, oh, he gets his curls from his dad. And then they look super confused. So I just usually just say thank you or whatever, if people like don't know who I am. If it's somebody who might want to know what's really going on with my hair, then I might say, oh, you know, you can look on my YouTube and see how I did that. But yeah, you can kind of see that this is the like 8mm curl that's blended in here and there with the 6mm curl. And if you blend those two curl patterns, it just looks more natural. Deanna Monique kind of gave me that tip. She's the CEO of Boho Exotic Studios that sells this hair, and she sources her hair like just, you know, really authentically, and does like all these like super awesome curl patterns that would match anybody's, you know, curl pattern, all the way to I think like a 3mm or 4mm curl, so like a really tight curl, from that all the way up to just what she calls the holy straight. She also has like a relaxed perm texture. There are a lot of different textures, so you got to check her hair out. It's a Black-owned company. She, you know, also she spent like 20 years finding the perfect way to curl human hair that would match, especially mixed curl patterns. You know, people who are bi or tri or quad ethnic or whatever, you know, like to be able to just really like match those curl patterns. So she is the place to go. So bohoexoticstudio.com, and I'll put the link in my description. And then also on Instagram, Boho Exotic Studio, and I think it's, well, you can like hashtag BES, B-E-S, Boho Exotic Studio, like for the best hair. So anyway, that's my little plug for her, and back in 2015, she actually reached out and she was like, you know, we love your hair, and if you, you know, like decide to get new hair, just let me know, and I want to sponsor your next curly look. And so I got some hair from her originally, and then what happened was I actually cut that hair. I think I was pregnant at the time with Langston, and I did not like the way that I cut it, so I screwed up, and then I ended up buying hair from her. Now the hair is expensive if you buy it on just a regular day. However, I always shop the Black Friday sales because she has really good Black Friday sales, and so each year I've gotten like a bundle during Black Friday sale. Well, 2 years I did, so I had like 2 bundles, and then did this unit, and it actually was a little bit longer. So over the years I've kind of trimmed it. So this is where it's at now. Yeah, so I'm gonna get dressed. Obviously I'm still in my robe. I'm gonna get dressed and start my day. I just had to go out in the sun because I wanted to see how pretty this color is in the sunlight. And I just love the shimmering of that red. And I feel like it picks up the color of my eyes as well. And guess who approves? Langston, when he first saw me, pulled my face toward his and gave me a kiss. So he must like the hair too. Yay. So let me know if you have any questions. As always, I will be available for you in the comments. And yeah, just be encouraged that whatever hair goals you have, you can achieve them. There are so many tools out there right now to, you know, not just be like stuck with the hair that you're born with, but, you know, to have whatever kind of hair that you want. There is a huge range of product and hair types and styles and just so much creativity that is part of the joy of the human experience. So let me know if you have any thoughts. And one last thing, if you do get discouraged with the do-it-yourself process, know there are professionals out there to assist you, and I'm always happy to sew up a wig unit for anybody that wants that service. All I ask is that you either give me the deposit to purchase the hair or send me the hair, and I charge just $150 fee for sewing the entire wig unit. So any kind of hair that you want, if you want to send it to me. I specialize in curly hair. I'm not as good with sewing the straight hair, but if it has like a lace, if you have a lace frontal or a lace closure of some kind, I can always do the straight hair. With the curly hair, you really don't need that lace frontal or closure if you're going to be blending with a little bit of the leave out in the front. So anyway, lots of information to soak in. Just let me know if I can be helpful to you in any other way.